Oh, I'm live. Here we are. So hi, Christy. Are you Christy the sock knitter and Rebecca Good? Your avatar looks familiar. I don't know. So here I am. Haven't been here since January, I think, because our life has been in an uproar and we're currently living in an Airbnb. But I have this lovely little office nook, and so I thought I should get back into doing my lives. And I'm actually doing this on my laptop, so I can kind of see. Um, Samina has joined. Um, so I think I don't know, I think you can write messages to me. I don't know. But at least I can kind of see what these things say. I'll just leave my glasses on. Um, and so I have a few things I can talk about, but I would love to know what you'd like me to talk about. So let's see, let me tell you about my office here. So it's just a little like 7 by 10 foot nook off the living room, dining room of this place. And there's a little couch over there. My 2 bags are my travel carry-on bags. They're felted, made by a company in LA called Grafe and Lands. They just do beautiful bags. I only buy them on sale. And so my filing system is the gray one, which is slightly bigger, has yarn in it, and the orange one has paper. So any paper that has to be filed when I get home goes in there, along with blank paper that I may need to write on. And right now I have a stack of, so I have to see everything on paper. This is a measuring workbook that I got from Kahindi Oni, who has the sewing lounge. And she's been learning how to draft patterns in Seamly 2D. And the thing about Seamly 2D that's really cool is that once you've drafted a basic pattern, then it's called parametric. So then you put in new measurements and it automatically changes. So you don't have to redraft it every time. So she's been learning how to do this. And, I started as a flat pattern person, and I kind of do everything in flat pattern in my head. And so she and I chat a lot. And she was going to teach me. Oh, Tamsin, good to see you. Tamsin makes these incredible, what do you call them? The little ones. And she makes up stories about, they're like animals. She makes up stories to give them a life. I would rather put my eyes out than do something like that, but I love what she does. So anyhow, back to Kahindi. So I had asked her if she would teach me, the knitted ones is what they're called, how to use Seamly. I'm not really good at reading or learning things without a written manual. That's, because I grew up learning from books. And then our life has been kind of in an uproar. And so I thought, well, I would just ask her if she would do it for me, and then I'll learn later. So she is going to draft a pattern for me, but the downside is you have to take your measurements. And I've been saying that I need the new pattern block because I've aged out of the pattern block that I used for years and, modified it as my body changed. But as I've been getting comfy in my 70s, things have kind of changed more than I can just add an inch here or there. So she's going to draft me a new basic pattern block. And, it really, except for my waist, things haven't changed too much. And, instead of having beautiful, shapely arms, I now have like these tubes with a big bunch of fat in them. But there's like nothing you can do about it. So we're just going to deal with it. And my boobs have fallen. So anyhow, I'm excited about that. I took all the measurements. I've sent them to Kahindi, and we've been discussing how you draft the proper armhole length. So she uses a formula and that she's been very unsatisfied with because it works for a body like mine that's like pretty close to standard. But as soon as you get somebody with larger or smaller bust tissue, the numbers kind of fall apart. And so she's been experimenting on using the upper bust measurement instead of the full bust, because the full bust encompasses a lot of tissue. And the upper bust is more of a skeletal measurement, with whatever your layer of padding is. So I did the calculations for me, and it works kind of either way. But then if you start throwing in measurements that are larger, that's why you get garments that have armholes that are so deep for larger people. And I guess potentially too shallow for smaller people. And this is, of course, the crux of why none of us can get anything that fits. So Kahindi is a sewer. So she's doing blocks in woven fabric. And when I get my block, I'll do it in both woven, and then I'll do one in knitted fabric to test it. And learn how to make the adjustments to the pattern. So anyhow, this pile is now ready to go into my orange folder or bag, because I've got all the numbers now are on my computer. I don't need it. So I'm sitting here. One of the great things I'll just show you. I look out over the patio and the alley and the houses behind here, and we're like 3 or 4 blocks from our house, and it's been snowing since sometime early this morning, and they said it was going to stop about 9 o'clock, and it hasn't really ever stopped. It's not snowing very heavily right now. But it's gotten warm enough that it's not sticking to the pavement. And I literally only know what I can see out the back window because we can't see the street in the front. And I haven't ventured outside. I'm taking a snow day. Michelle Hay or hey, Michelle, hey. Um, Thanks for joining me. So let's see, I've kind of enjoyed having the snow to look at today. And this is the first snow we've had here in Seattle this winter. We usually get some in at the end of December, early January. And we got none. And this, I'm not a skier, but apparently it's been like crappy snow. So it's been really great for people who have their second homes on the other side of the mountains and have to drive across the pass. But otherwise, it's been a crap winter in terms of snowing. And but it's apparently like snowing feet up in the mountains right now. So there'll probably be good spring snowing if it stays warm enough, which it will for at least, it looks like, the next 15 days. So I'm right now pulling at, so I blocked some swatches yesterday and I just threw them in with my hand wash, but apparently I chose a different cycle than I'd used before. And so this is my mohair swatch. Here's another swatch. So this one's really bad. And you can see it had floats on the back. And it looks like a cobweb gone bad. And there's just no saving it. I only saved it to show you. And when this happens, there's just like nothing you can do but read your swatches. So I have more of this yarn, but it's at the house. So I'm doing a swatch that I worked on last night with what I have left. It looks like I'll have just enough. And I haven't done my flat swatch, so I will have to do that when I get more yarn. Oh, thank you. So Samina said loves my capelet. So this is called Kaikoura, and the yarn is from Crave Yarns. I don't even know whether it's still available. I think it was called Thoreau. And I love the color. I'm always cold, kind of up through my upper arms. And I chose what I was going to wear today. I have like 6 outfits, so choosing is not like a big deal. And then I love these little capelets. And so this was one I did early on. And I don't think there are short rows in it, but you can knit it either. I think this one goes top down. And then I'm trying to remember. I think I probably changed the needle size to get the drape to it. And there is silk in this, so it's really nice. But so I knit this before the pandemic because everything is dated by the pandemic. So I did this before the pandemic. And so one of the problems with these, so see how far it comes down in the front and then how far up it is in the back. And so anybody who's done a yoke sweater knows this problem, that you have to add short rows to get the length and in the back. But I didn't do that with this. This was just like a travel knitting trip or piece. I didn't want to spend the time to do short rows. And so I've since done another one like this, and it's called Chattanooga, just like the city, which is one of the most satisfying words to type. I'm a touch typer. And so, and then I have these odd things that, like, that one feels good to type. Um, so this is called Kaikoura. It comes in 11 sizes, but it has no short rows. Chattanooga, I can't remember how many sizes there are, but it has the short rows in it. I think the stitch pattern may be slightly different, so that it is even all the way around. Okay, so during the pandemic, I was teaching my grading class, and this lovely young woman called Jamie came, and then Jamie worked for me for 2 or 3 years after that. So one of the things that we worked on, we were always working on sizing and what has become my pattern tailor. But we got interested in yoke sweaters, and by we, I mean I got interested in yoke sweaters, so Jamie had to do yoke sweaters. And we kind of figured out like the measurements that you need and then what you need to put into a yoke sweater to get a much more beautiful fit than what you usually see. So I haven't done anything with that material. It's sitting in a cabinet waiting for my attention. So I just applied what we were learning about making yokes that fit into Chattanooga. So it's a capelet like this. You can make it out of a skein of sock yarn. And I love these drop stitches because they make things feel light and open. And so not only am I always cold up through here, I have hot flashes. So then I'm like boiling up. And so I tend to layer. Anyhow, I think I started out by saying that I had chosen my outfit. Yeah, last night before I went to bed. I was going to wear a cardigan. And then I remembered that I had brought this over from our house. And so I thought I would wear it. And it's actually been quite perfect today. Okay, so what else do I have here? Oh, the other thing of note about today is I ran the vacuum. So Mitch and I started living together in, I believe, 1985. And he had a cleaning person who came in every other week. And we agreed that he made a lot more money than I did. He has always made a lot more money than I do. And so that was my contribution, was paying for the cleaning person, and we decided to have that person come every week. And that has continued, except for brief periods when we have been living in some sort of chaos. We spent a couple of months up here in Seattle when Mitch was studying to take the California bar back in like 1998. And I did the cleaning. He said it was miserable having me do the cleaning because I got so pissed off every time I did it. I was just banging around the apartment. And so I don't clean. I keep everything looking presentable. But yeah, the number of times I've run the vacuum in the last 40 years, you could probably count on one hand. So I ran the vacuum today because our cleaning person had some scheduled burps on Monday when she usually comes. And Mitch had also had an endoscopy. And I just said, oh, Nicole, I can't have you come. It was like 3:30. And I just like, yeah, we don't have the energy today. And I had forgotten that she was going to Mexico City for a well-earned week with a friend down there. And so we didn't have cleaning this week. And I kind of drop stuff on the ground all the time and I just ignore it because she's going to come along and vacuum it up for me. So, and Mitch is also kind of allergic to dust. So I ran the vacuum today. This was a big event. I also Mitch took the sheets off the bed and I washed them and put them back on, which is another thing that I haven't done in like 40 years. So he helped me last week and it's normally his job. And I did it this week because he's got shoulder pain today. So anyhow, running the vacuum was like a big moment for me. And don't need to do that again. I'd actually had gotten it out of the closet here because, yeah, a little bit of dust never hurt. I always say to Nicole, in defense of myself for the fact that I like never sweep my kitchen floor, that it just seems like it's a lot better I think it's better to clean up when there's like visible dirt that you can see coming up instead of just like vacuuming because you should. So anyhow, I live in a pretty tidy house, but I'm not a cleaner at all. But I do tons of laundry. Again, because Mitch is allergic to dust. And actually, I think you're actually allergic to the mites. I took the vacuum out last week because there's a sign on the dryer that says you have to clean it after every use because it's a fire hazard. And I know Nicole cleans mine. So unless she doesn't come or is a day or two late, I usually just leave it for her to do. But I was like getting no lint, but I could see that there was just like tons of lint in the system. So I finally got out the vacuum and hosed out the dryer lint system. And I'm leaving the canister for somebody else to deal with. I also take garbage out. So it's not that I don't do stuff. It's just that I don't like to. So let's see. Another thing that is on my mind these days is that because I'm not in my studio office, amongst all my treasured things and a bazillion projects that I could be working on, I've been able to focus a lot. So part of the reason we're not in our home right now is because there was something in our home, we live in a townhouse, that was making both of us sick. And I didn't really, Mitch has got this other stuff going on. So I didn't really notice that it was making me sick because I don't pay attention to things like that. I was having a lot of kind of brain fog and I was really tired and I kept having these like kind of non-specific headaches. And so he started in January, he started complaining about being bothered when he was downstairs in the living room. And, so we got fans going, we got, vent in the kitchen going. And, he's got like one of those HEPA fans. And sometimes he would just have to go upstairs because he could. So our bedroom is on the second floor, and both of our offices are up there because he would just start feeling so crappy. Well, I didn't. Yeah, like I said, I just don't pay attention to like minor complaints. And I knew I was having trouble with my spreadsheets, but I just thought, oh, maybe I'm just old, which I am, but it turns out that that wasn't the reason. Um, so at the end of January, he was really being bothered. And on January 30th, he was like complaining early in the day instead of later. And he thought it was the furnace, and we'd had the furnace guy out, and it seemed like it could be the furnace, but the guy didn't have the right tools or something. So we decided that we would just drive over to a park and sit in the park for a while and see if we. That's okay, Samina. Thank you for coming. And so we sat in the park for an hour and we both started feeling better. And so I'm like on my phone finding a hotel. And we went to a hotel. By the time we left, we went home, packed up a couple of bags. By the time we left, Mitch could like barely get to the car, to the Uber to take us to the hotel. And when we got to the hotel, he couldn't lift his bag or anything. So we got him ensconced. He just fell into bed. And I don't know you, Richard. So he went to bed. We had been supposed to have friends over for dinner that night. And when I told them I couldn't do dinner, they rallied and came down to the hotel and had dinner with me, and which meant that I could get my Friday night martini. And Mitch was like in bed and didn't feel like he could get down to the restaurant. And he pretty much remained in bed for most of the weekend. And then we finally decided that we just had to rent someplace else to live. So this is our third rental because they aren't always available long term. And trust me, I can go on and on. I have been in my head about the shortcomings of Airbnb VRBOs. So the first place we went to was fine. It had a nice kitchen, which I appreciated because I love to cook. All these places seem to have a couch, and that's it to sit on. And so that place had a couch and no place else to sit except at the dining room table, and polyester sheets. I seriously didn't even know that people use polyester sheets, but they're horrible, and it made my skin feel creepy, and so I was really pissed off about that. And they didn't have good curtains, and it was so bright in the bedroom because of the street lights that I found it hard to sleep. So we stayed there a week and then moved on. The house itself was pretty bad. It had been remodeled. It was an old craftsman bungalow, poorly, and It felt like a college rental. Um, so we moved on from there to another place that was actually quite nice, kind of a late 50s. Um, I don't know what they call them. Just, like a one-story, probably had a full on daylight basement, which was another rental. So we were upstairs. There were 2 bedrooms. Something in the guest bedroom bothered Mitch. Um, it also had polyester sheets, but by that time, I had brought my own sheets because I wasn't sleeping in those horrible sheets any longer. And it had a nice kitchen. It was very well stocked in terms of dishes and pots and pans, and had good appliances. Um, most places have really crappy knives, and we couldn't get the smart TV to communicate with Mitch's iPad. And we don't ever watch TV commercials, so it was just fucking torture. And we were there for like 10 days. Um, and I kept trying to get the owner to do something, in the bullshit that they write. It's like, I'm just nearby. I can come over and fix anything. Well, he wasn't a tech guy. He wasn't coming over to try and figure that TV out. So we decided to move on. And I really wanted someplace in the neighborhood that I'm used to. Um, and thinking I would go over and get stuff from the house, but it's still bothering us. So, it's starting to snow more. It's just the time of day where the temperatures change. So it had been very lightly snowing, but it's gotten a little more active. So we found this place, and it's a 1 bedroom. It's in the back half of the first floor of this huge house. So the owner lives upstairs, and there's 2 apartments, I think, on this floor. There's an apartment over the garage, and she's got other rental properties. Um, so she and her husband are very quiet. Mitch and I are quiet. The smart TV works. The walls are painted what my mother used to call provincial gold, which our entire house was painted in, and I hate it. But otherwise, I look out over this nice patio. I can see trees and the houses behind, and it's got this wonderful office area for me with an actual comfortable chair. So I've been working away and all of that. So, and I'll just finish up on the house problems. So it's something in the air, we think. The next door neighbors remodeled and moved back in, or moved into for the first time. Somebody else had lived there before. The townhouse next to us. And these were cleverly built in the late 70s by a local architect, or designed by a local architect and built by somebody else. And so they're staggered so that we only share, and then there's kind of a garden atrium. And so we only share like 6 feet of wall, maybe 10 feet of wall. So like I never hear the neighbors except if I'm in the laundry room, which is right in that area that shares space, and then part of the garage. But so the neighbors on the other side moved back in August or in October when Mitch started having this additional feeling of something triggering his body. He's got other issues. Um, and at some point when the contractor was the only one there, Mitch asked him what he was doing because it was making so much noise in our unit. And it sounded like it was coming from the garage, which they were working working in as a workspace. So he was like, yeah, I've got the wall open. It's really weird that how the common wall is set up is really weird. So we started wondering if something had been put into the wall that was venting in a way that it shouldn't. Um, so our contractor who remodeled our townhouse in 2015, 2016 is working to try and figure out what the problem is. And he went down into the crawl space, which is the other place that there's common access, and the barrier was gone. So he and one of the HVAC ducts had been knocked off its support. So he fixed that the other day, and they took the patio roof tiles off that's outside of my studio, and to see if water was intruding through that flat roof, but looked like not. So that would have been an easy answer because then it probably would have been mold. So we don't know still. Today the vents were being vacuumed out, and Jeff's been running fans, HEPA fans, for like 10 days, 2 weeks. So I think the air is much clearer over there, although I'm still wearing a respirator when I go over. And on the rare occasions that I do go over, I go over before I take my morning shower so that I can get in the shower as soon as I come back and wash my hair and clean off and wash my clothes. And then everything that comes in has to be wiped down with a Clorox sheet, which is one of the reasons why I haven't brought a lot of things over here, because it's a pain in the neck, and I'm not really inclined to that sort of thing. So because I've only got a few projects with me, I mean, this is like what I threw in my bag when we went to the hotel, and I've kind of like beefed up some of the stuff I have, but I'm working on writing an article for which I'm knitting umpteen swatches. I'm writing a sweater pattern. I'm working on my marketing, and what else do I have? Well, I was doing the measuring thing. I've been spending a lot of time kind of taking the time to like work on my marketing because I never do it because it's not very fun for me. And so what I'm really finding is that it's much more enjoyable to work at a rational pace and to have the time to reflect and kind of digest what's happening as I am working on things. And then I'm working on the pattern tailor stuff for this pattern. So I've been working on what I call my SOPs, standard operating procedures. I'm the only one who does anything anymore. I have a virtual assistant, but she doesn't need anything from me. Um, she's much more organized. Um, so I've been taking the time to write down, like, what do I need to create every sheet in my Pattern Tailor workbooks? And what do I need to take care of all of the things that go into this article? And, even like, what did I need to take all these measurements and get them to Kahindi? Um, and then so at night I knit after I quit working and have made dinner. And then I've been doing some hand stitching. So that kind of aqua colored thing over there is my latest hand stitching. That I haven't actually touched, but I'm going to tonight. So I finished up, this is the piece for a stand-up collar on a linen top. And so I took this plaid linen and I did the almost vertical stitching, and then I did the bias stitching, and on the collar only I added little bullion French knot flowers. I am in love with this. I had a lot of fun doing it. I'll show you a body piece too. So, well, here's a sleeve. So same thing, but none of the embellishment. And obviously it probably needs to be washed because I've had my grubby hands on it for weeks and weeks and weeks. Things I wanted to do. Embroidery floss is really cheap compared to yarn. So this was, I think these are like $2.50 a piece. And so this was a little bundle of probably, like singles of dye lots that were out, that they'd gotten a new dye lot. And so these are all just neutrals, which I love. So those are going to be on my top. And I need to hand wind some balls of yarn, but that's been bothering me. I go outside to do it when it's snowing, and it's been raining. So, and these, I love these boxes. So my, hair product comes in these from Kevin Murphy in Australia. And so it comes in these little tubs. And so this one has embroidery floss and needles in it. And then I've got one that has my bent tip needle, my locking stitch markers, I don't know, a couple of other dangly stitch markers, which I don't care for, except sometimes I use them as a beginning of round marker. And then I have another one that's just stitch markers. And so I love to reuse things, but these function so well. Oh, and they're big enough that this is the lip balm that I use. And so each of them has a lip balm in it. So not right now because I left home without enough lip balms, but I put them in there, so I always have them when regardless of what I'm working on the couch. And whatever, it's 5 o'clock, and I have a note here that I want to talk about blocked and unblocked gauge, but I think we'll do that another time. It was wonderful to do this. The snow is really picking up. And this is the moment on Friday. If we were at home, I would be rushing downstairs to get organized for the music hour, which is 90 minutes on Friday, where Mitch plays LPs on his turntable, and I sit at the dining room table and get organized. So we haven't been doing that since we don't have a turntable. And so I've been just kind of sitting at my desk doing my organizing at the end of the day. I don't care to organize in the morning. And so this is the time of day that I do that, and I have to figure out what I'm going to cook for dinner because I failed to go to the grocery store yesterday, and then I couldn't go today because of the snow. And I know we don't have very much snow, but Seattle is a city of hills, and I was going to go down our hill and over to the bottom of another hill, and I just didn't feel like doing it. I figured that when you don't have to go out, you should. When there are plenty of people who have to go out and I don't have to. So we've got limited dinner options because we were Thursday was my normal shopping day. So we'll see what I can scare up. And that's it. It was good to come back and chat. And I thank everybody who came and everybody who put something into the chat. So glad they will let you do it on your computer now, because the phone was just a pain in the ass for me because I can't really see. So anyhow, have a wonderful weekend. And I know it was Friday the 13th today, but I felt that because of the snow, it was a good day. Didn't even see any crows today. We usually have a lot. So interestingly, this will be my last comment. So anybody who's come before knows that I have hummingbirds, that there's a feeder outside my office. And I haven't seen a single hummingbird over here. Like I say, we're only 3 blocks away, but I've seen lots of crows, so that could be why. Anyhow, have a wonderful weekend, and I'm also looking forward to my Friday martini. See you later. Bye.